At the time of recording the voiceover for this video, there are still a couple of slots left for DLC in Smash Bros. Ultimate. But everyone knows that Nintendo is just going to fill them up with more Fire Emblem characters. So, let's look at some alternatives. This is my wish list of characters that I'd like to see in Super Smash Bros. There are many like it, but this is mine. In an early draft of the script for this video, one of my choices was Zero from the Mega Man X series. But then I found out he was already in Smash Ultimate, albeit as an assist trophy. However, there is a workaround. My choice for number 10 is not Zero, but Mega Man Zero. This series of games for the Game Boy Advance changed its gameplay from run and gun to hack and slash, which could make Zero even better suited to the melee fighting of Smash than his blue counterpart. And don't forget, Dr. Wily originally built Zero to battle the original Mega Man. It would be like a fanfiction come true! I can envision Zero's playstyle incorporating the different melee weapons that he got in his games. The chain rod would be used for throws and grappling, a standing smash for the flurry with his tonfa, side smash would be the recoil rod, a rising saber slash for his recovery move, and he could use his down smash to do this.
When Captain America throws his mighty shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must yield!
Bravely Default is often considered one of the greatest in the 3DS's pantheon of RPGs. This is in no small part because of the wonderful job system, offering dozens of class changes, each with its own laundry list of skills, which is why one of the game's protagonists would be a welcome addition to the Smash roster, and my personal choice is Edea. I can imagine her fighting by changing classes on the fly, like for example using Valkyrie's jump for a recovery move, and Bravely Second being incorporated into her final smash. There were a lot of special attacks that she could use for that, don't forget. In fact, this game has so many attack options, you could probably include all 6 characters from both games, and they could all have unique movesets. But I suppose that's getting a tiny little bit greedy, and it would be very time consuming for the development staff. So it's probably better to just have one character. So why Edea, I hear you ask? Simply because I like her jazzy theme song the best. And besides, who doesn't want to hear her when she loses? Smash Bros. Has proven to be a good way of raising interest in games you may not have tried before, so this could potentially work for Goemon from the Mystical Ninja series. His base games are so bizarre it would fit perfectly with the mayhem of the Smash series. Whacking people over the head with a pipe sets him apart from being another stock swordsman, as well as throwing coins at people, probably the most generous way of dispatching other fighters. You'd never catch Scrooge McDuck doing that now, would you? The Mystical Ninja games really are good, and having Goemon join the Smash roster would be great publicity for the franchise, as well as helping Konami to redeem themselves after all that, modern controversy, shall we say. By the way, did I also mention that Goemon can summon a giant robot by blowing into a seashell? How do you like that for a final smash? There's been a growing trend in Smash of having 2 characters paired together as a single powerful entity. There's the Ice Climbers, the Duck Hunt duo, Banjo and Kazooie, and since Square Enix has started to once again grace Nintendo with Final Fantasy content, then it would make sense to incorporate 2 of the franchise's most beloved characters. We're talking about a pair of characters that have essentially become the series' mascots. Mog and Chocobo! Over the course of the Final Fantasy series, these 2 mascot characters have acted as both part-time party members and summon spirits, giving them plenty of attack options to work with. There are Mog's melee weapons from Final Fantasy VI, the Chocobo Kick, a built-in recovery move by virtue of Chocobo being an actual bird, and that's before we even get onto the subject of Fat Chocobo for the final smash. Oh wait, I shouldn't really call it that because it's fat-shaming, and such an act of online bullying is beneath me. King-sized Chocobo for the final smash? Next on our list is the famous criminal defense lawyer, crime scene investigator, and reluctant babysitter, Phoenix Wright. He's a character with a long history on Nintendo systems. His games were originally made for the Game Boy Advance in Japan, and later remastered to be released on the DS, and later games were released on the 3DS. You're likely questioning, How would this man work in a fighting game? He's a protagonist of a point-and-click adventure. That is an excellent point, but remember, it worked in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Sneezing, flipping notes, and throwing papers at people seemed to do the trick back then. Just look at his level 3 super combo. That has Final Smash written all over it! And if all else fails, he could always just use the whip and coffee mug projectiles that the prosecutors use against him. They get away with assault and battery in a court of law, why shouldn't Phoenix? Oh, yes, that's right, because of the judge demanding that the prosecutors get special treatment for his special little boys and girls. Next we have a character who was based on Phoenix Wright, but has actually been in fights before. Herschel Layton, Professor of Archaeology at Gresselheimer University, is essentially Indiana Jones with good manners and a more formal fashion sense. He's skilled in fencing and has built a number of devices that he can use for his smash attacks, including a gun that sprays coins at people. Oh, much like Goemon again. And he's also built several flying machines that he can use for his recovery moves. Now, you could argue that his assistant Emmy Altava might work better in a fighting game, considering that she is basically a black belt, but I find the idea of Layton attacking people with a block puzzle just too hilarious to pass up. A common topic that comes up in conversations about Smash Bros. Is that the roster could benefit from including more villains. This is a good point, and since the Pokemon trainers are such a fun idea, I suggest as an evil counterpart to Red and Leaf, the Pokemon crime lord Giovanni. Obviously, this would mean 3 different skill sets to develop, so I'll just focus on the Pokemon he could use. He could lead off with his ironic Rhydon using Takedown and Rock Blast. Nidoqueen could be his massive, powerful, fully evolved tank to compete with Charizard, and they could give her attacks like Poison Jab and Stone Edge. To round out the trio with a smaller, faster Pokemon, they could use Persian if they want to reference the anime, which they obviously do since they insisted on shoehorning these 2 annoying gobshites into the Let's Go games, and of course the newer movies, even though they follow a separate timeline where Ash never actually met them, and so there's no reason for them to even be in the films at all other than the writer's favouritism. Oh, by the way, if anyone from the anime writing team is watching this, there's a difference between a running gag and using the same unfunny joke over and over and over and over again. Please, for the love of Arceus, learn that difference! For number 3 on the list, we have Pete from Harvest Moon. Yes, Pete, not Jack! I can prove that his name is Pete with Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Can you prove that his name is Jack? No! Because there's no such character as Jack! This is a stupid pretending thing you made up because you're so boring, nobody wants to play with you! So anyway, you may think the protagonist of a farming simulator is an odd choice for a fighting game, but remember, a lot of ninja weapons did in fact begin life as farm tools. Just look at his counterparts in the Rune Factory series. Yes, you could argue that the Rune Factory protagonists are more used to fighting monsters than the Harvest Moon heroes, but I think Pete is the better choice, at least with his retro vintage charm. For a moveset, he carries a hammer, a stickle, and an axe that he can use for his attacks, as well as a hoe that he can charge up to create a shockwave. And just look at the way he carries his chickens. That is a perfect recovery move right there and then. Also, I just love the idea of him using the blue feather as a taunt. You're in the middle of a fight, your opponent rushes towards you, and... wanna get married? Tales of Symphonia has quite a history with Nintendo. It began life as one of the best games on Nintendo's GameCube, its follow-up was initially a Wii exclusive, and the 2 games are set in the same universe as Tales of Phantasia, which was originally a Super Famicom game that got a Game Boy Advance port. So it should go without saying that Symphonia's protagonist, Lloyd Irving, is more than worthy of a place in the Smash roster. The battle system in the older Tales of games has almost identical controls to Super Smash Bros. In fact, you can literally give Lloyd a Smash-ready set of arts in his base game. He has Demon Fang for his standing smash, Tiger Blade for his sideways smash, Sword Rain for his down smash, and either Tempest or Rising Falcon for a recovery move. He even has a perfectly good final smash in the form of his Mystic Heart, Falcon Crest. I have no idea why Lloyd would name his finisher after an old American soap opera, but any attack that shares its name with a wine brand, fictional or otherwise, gets my seal of approval. What are your personal criteria for the quintessential Smash Bros. Character? A usable moveset? A high nostalgia factor for the classic days of gaming? A character who actually has character? Well, for me personally, the character who fits all that criteria more than anyone else on this list is none other than...
Earthworm Jim! The soil he did crawl! Earthworm Jim! A super suit did fall!
I'm honestly surprised he hasn't made the roster already. He obviously is, or at least was, a popular character with plenty of games and a cartoon series back in his heyday. Then there's the absolute madness of his skill set. His sidekick, Snot the Green Blob to help with recovery, the different weapons from Earthworm Jim 2, possibly even his modular rocket could be worked into it. He even uses himself as a whip, and you thought Simon Belmont was hardcore. As for a final smash, well, he could just go ballistic and fire at random like he does in the cartoon series.
Eat dirt! Everyone in the vicinity!
Appearing in Smash Bros. Would be a great comeback for Earthworm Jim. Even better if they can get Dan Castellaneta to do his voiceover again.
Groovy!
By the way, some random trivia to end the video with. Did you know Dan Castellaneta also voiced a Sonic the Hedgehog-like character in the Simpsons episode, Marge Not Proud? In the Saturday morning Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon series, Sonic's nemesis, Dr. Robotnik, was voiced by Jim Cummings, the same actor as Earthworm Jim's nemesis, Psychro. Thus concludes my list of the top 10 characters that I'd like to see in Smash Bros. I think the best part of these wish lists is that no two are ever the same, so please tell me about your personal picks in the comments below. Cheerio!